across the street from and they make their own gin and vodka. And they've got whiskey in the barrels, but it won't be ready to be tapped. But they have a drink in there. It's called the Black Diamond, and it was voted one of the best drinks in America.
All right, let's call the meeting to order.
It's unbelievable.
We have a quorum, and we'll start with public comment period. Anybody in the public have any comments, questions they wish to raise with us? Okay, Robert?
Yeah, I had an experience with the clinic and the hospital dating back to, started in May, I think it was May 5th. I could check that. I went in and the proton testing machine was down, it wasn't accurate, and they had sent it back to some place to be checked and calibrated. So they sent me to the hospital to have my blood test done. And I went over, and the phlebotomist, I guess that's his title, did it. They said, well, we'll call you with the results. And now, I think that was on like a Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was a Thursday. Well, I waited all day. They never called. Friday morning, I finally called, and I said, you know, if I need a different dosage, I may have to get it from the pharmacy, and they're not open on Saturday and Sunday, so I sort of need to know where I'm at. But it worked out. That was okay. They said it was okay. Well, I came back June 5th, and they said, oh, you're lucky. The machine's back, but the first 15 people that use it are going to be sent over and have the other blood tests done at the lab so we can compare the results to make sure that the machine is accurate since we just got it back. So they gave me a work order, sent me to the hospital. I went over to the clinic. They took me in, sat me down. The gentleman came out, tapped my arm a couple times. He said, I can't see a vein. Just go back and tell him you're fine and go on home. So I said, can I have the paperwork that I brought you? No, I'll keep it. I said, I'd like to return it. You didn't do it. I'd like to give it back to him. And he said, no, I'll keep it. So I went back to the clinic. I walked in, told the lady, I said, I didn't bring the paperwork back, but he didn't do the test. She said, why not? I said, well, he tapped my wrist or elbow and said he couldn't find a vein. Just come back and tell you I'm fine and go on home. She said, okay, well then go on home. So there were two chances to check, and it was, I think she said it was high when they did it on the machine. But I was a little concerned that somebody that, and I checked the bill, I don't think I got billed for it in June. So when he didn't do it in June, that's why I was concerned about him keeping the paperwork. I did get billed for the one in May, but not the one in June. But was rather concerned that if this medication sort of, my life depends on it a little bit, and just to say, well, I can't find a vein, go home and tell them I said you're okay, I thought was very unprofessional. And it's the last two, I've had other issues that I've referred to Monty. I've been doing this with the proton system since they started with it. I started out in the lab, and when they set the proton testing up, I was one of the first ones to go over. I have had my finger twice, it's been in the last 2 months before they stick me, ever wipe it with alcohol or a cotton swab or anything. And they know I come from the gym, because I always go to the gym, I get done in time to come down here, and they ask me, have you been at the gym? Yeah. Well, if they've been at the gym, they should be concerned that I've been hanging on to equipment that is maybe not really very sanitary. Since they don't do it, I always sit out in the car right before I come in and do it. But they have never stuck my finger until the last 2 months. I have a cat that's diabetic, and I do her blood tests, and I sanitize her ear before I do her blood test, and I just think they should be doing that. If you want to go into another one that I've had with them, when I first started this proton testing, they did it out in the nurse's station where the computer station is. You know where I'm talking? I'm sure you know where I mean. Before they moved it back in the little room. And when they would do my test, I never could see the meter. I could never see what the reading was because they kept me over by the sink and it was over there. And they would say, well, at first they would ask me, what dosage are you on? I said, well, don't you keep record of that? Yeah, but it's in the computer and it's too much trouble to look it up. So I would tell them. I would think that since I was doing it every week, I would think it would be important to know not just what am I taking this week, but what have I been taking for the last 6 or 8 weeks to see what you're doing and where the progress is. But they said it was too difficult, too much trouble to look it up. Then they would do the test, and the person that was doing it, it was almost a different, there was one young lady that did it for quite a while, and she was pretty good. And she disappeared, and it's almost a different person almost every month when I come in. I hardly ever get the same person twice, or I might get you and I may not see you again for 6 months, then you're back in there. So the people don't really even know who you are or really aren't familiar with you. But they would take my test. There'd be a couple ladies, I don't know what they were doing out there, nurses, they'd be sitting at the computer station entering information in the computer, and this person that took the test would turn around and say, oh, he's at 2.7 and he's taking 3 milligrams, that's a little high, what do you think we should do? And they would discuss and say, go down to 3. Okay, I accepted that, and come back next week. I'd come back next week, and you can check this. I won't say it happened every time, but they say, oh, you're a little low, go back to 3.5. I go back, oh, you're a little high, go down to 3. And I was coming back every week and bouncing back and forth between 3 and 3.5. So I asked one day to see a doctor. I said, can I talk to Dr. Patterson or somebody? I have a couple questions. So they sent me in the little room at the end of the thing, and a lady comes in to do my, I said, I don't need all that stuff, I just wanted to ask the doctor a question. Well, you have to have it if you're in this room. I said, fine, but I'm not paying for it. I didn't come in here to get my blood pressure, I wanted to ask a doctor a question about my Coumadin testing. And now I think this one was, it was Lovell, I believe, this time. Because I think Dr. Lovell had just started, because it was in March. And he said, no, they should change it, but you should have, it should be stable for a month and see where it goes, and it should only come in once a month to check it. That was what he said. He said, come in and see me next month and I'll be here. He said, no, I won't. I'm going to be, the reason I think it was Lovell, because he was sent out to do search and rescue training or something for search and rescue. Pardon me?
Wilderness training.
Well, something, I don't know. So I went in a week later and he still wasn't there. So they did my test again, and the lady that did the test told me what to change it to and said, come back in a week. I said, ma'am, I just addressed this problem with Dr. Lovell when he told me it should be done and it should be checked once a month. She said, well, I don't care what the doctor told you, I'm telling you to come back in a week. I said, I'm sorry, but I have a little more faith in what the doctor says than what you're saying. And I said, I'll be back in a month. And I came back in a month. Well, at that time, it started to bother me about this, asking, well, what do you think we should change? And I asked to go in the room again and talk to a doctor in private, so they took me in that room. They didn't do my blood pressure, didn't do anything that time, I don't believe. They may have. So the doctor came in and I said, can these young ladies change my prescriptions or write prescriptions? And he said, no, definitely not. I said, well, how can they, that's basically what they're doing when they go around this little discussion thing and say go from 3 to 3.5. They are changing what I'm taking. Isn't that similar to changing my medication or my prescription levels? He said, yeah. He said they shouldn't do it. So I said I would prefer in the future when they're going to change it that it be okay to, I would like to know that a doctor made that decision, not a little group huddled around a computer and making a decision on what they're changing it to. Okay. Now, 7 months later, I got a bill. I got my bill, which I only get one about once a year. Each of those times that I sat down in that room to ask somebody about the procedures, I was billed for a Class 2 or Class 3 consultation, $149. And all I was doing was asking a question about the procedures, which I thought, why a Class 2 consultation for asking you, can a doctor change my meds instead of these people sitting around the computer station? One of them, your records show that I was never even was never consulted by anybody on that day. But I was still billed $149, and I've got a letter from your billing people that, no, that's incorrect, he wasn't in the building that day. But I still got billed for it. And that was the fourth one. There were 4 of them, and one of them I wasn't, there was no, I didn't even talk to anybody. So I called New West, and I said, I'd like to check into these things, and they got me a copy. I called the hospital, and they wouldn't give me any records. They said, we can't give you, I said, what was I consulted for? And we can't tell you that. I said, what do you mean you can't tell me? We're not going to tell you what you were consulted for. I said, you're billing me for something, but you won't tell me what I was consulted for? And they said, no, I have to call your insurance company. They had a hard time getting the information. I went back and forth for several months getting these off my bill, and the lady that I was dealing with, I won't mention her name, kept asking me, what do you want? What do you want out of this? I said, I want, if I was billed for something that I shouldn't have been billed for, I don't want anything. But I would like to see my grandkids and my kids have Medicare available to them when they get older. And if I'm paying bills that are not legitimate, that's why Medicare is gonna be broke. I said, I don't want a penny. But if I didn't get treated, or these bills are not legitimate, I would like to have what you collected from New West and what you had collected from Medicare be sent back to them. That's what's in it for me. So then I got into it with her. We discussed about the procedures, and she said, "Well, when you go, why don't you call me next time and tell me what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong?" I said, "Ma'am, I'm not a private detective. That's not my job to go check your procedures. I think you should go over and check the procedures." So I eventually did get them all off with the bills. But what's frightening to me is with every one of these statements that I got back, they checked. There's their little report that I guess that you write up. It says, "Oh, we went through all these questions. We asked him about this. We verified this. We checked this. I didn't check any of that stuff." And there's even one for the 26th when I wasn't even in the office. And a report was filed that they checked my heart, they checked my blood rate, blood pressure. Wasn't even in the building. But there's documentation that I was to back up billing me $149 for asking, why do I have to do this every week? Or do they have the right, or are they properly trained to change my prescriptions? That's not an office visit to me. So I was just a little concerned. And the billing thing, I haven't gotten a bill now for, I think it's about 7 months. I haven't gotten a bill for anything. So and when you get the bills, I called Medicare, I called New West, they said, well, we can't do anything after 90 days. If the bill is more than 90 days old, you cannot question or file a whatever they do, they can't investigate it because it's more than 90 days old. That's why you don't even get a bill until it's 6 months old most of the time. So that's well, then we can't challenge them if they're that old. So I have issues with that too. But that's my concerns. I got so annoyed. I went to St. Pat's where my cardiologist is, Dr. I can't remember his name. He used to come up here, but I don't get to see him up here anymore.
Maddox.
Maddox,
Okay.
yeah. And while I was down there, they said, I was explaining to him, he said, well, who's managing your Coumadin? I said, I don't even know. I said, I think it's Miss Lovell, or not Lovell, Chambers, yeah. And he said, well, do you want to go through our Coumadin class? I said, I'd rather do it at home, do it on my own. I said, I can handle it. But it costs way more to do it at home than it does to come in your clinic and do it. So that's a little silly. So I decided I should work these issues out because I don't really want to do it at home. Well, I don't mind doing it at home. I don't want to pay $80 a month to do it myself instead of coming down here. So I was just concerned with those issues. I don't feel like your sign says thank you for trusting us. My trust was getting a little weak, especially when a guy says, just tell him you're fine and go on home. That was the one that really upset me. So just thought you should know that.
Well, appreciate it. I guess, and I don't know if anybody in the staff has any comments. I honestly had a little difficulty following to which events were clinic and which events were hospital in that conversation. And I thought, Robert, if you could kind of write it down for us so we could maybe, there were a lot of events in there.
They were all clinic. Except for,
clinic.
the only thing that was in the hospital was when the phlebotomist said, I can't find a vein, just go fill them, you're fine, and go home. Everything else was in the clinic. It was all.
This is the hospital board, this isn't the clinic.
Well,
So,
Monty Turner told me to come down and talk about this. Because he calls me every time I come in, how was your visit? And I started talking about these concerns. He said, well, will you come talk to the hospital board? And I said, fine. And he asked me to come last month, but I didn't show up because I got stuck in Missoula and couldn't get home. And so he scheduled again. He said, I want you to go talk to him about this. So that's why I'm here. I didn't ask to come. He asked me to come. So, because he said he couldn't do anything. He said it needs to get to these people. So I assumed that evidently the clinic was involved with the hospital, or there was some connection between the two. I don't know.
they are separate entities, and maybe Bonnie had a little trouble following too, which was clinic and which was hospital. But my thoughts is if you could put it in writing, we can get the information back to the clinic and really take a serious look at it.
Well, the billing has been straightened out. That's all been taken care of, it's all been taken off the bill, and the one letter says they're sending the money back to New West and the Medicare, so I assume they do with the other ones. But the one that really pushed me over was when, from the hospital, when the man says, just go back, tell him I said you're fine, and go home. That was hospital, and that was on June 5th. So I've got the dates on that, I got, the bills are here, and you can check your records when you got the probe time tester back, that's when it was, the day that they got it back and started it, so it's verified. I've got both dates of them right here, if you want copies of them, it's all there.
Joan, I'm curious, since the board for the clinic is closed to the public, who would he go to?
Well, I think there are a couple of options, and ultimately, how much of this, some of it's billing administrative and some of it,
Just call Kim Madge.
Okay.
Just call Kim. Just go straight to Kim.
call the CEO.
And let her listen to you, you talk to her, and then you guys can work it from there.
That's where I'm thinking too, it would be very helpful to get it in writing with dates, so it would be a little easier to follow and specifically.
I've got all of it here, all here highlighted, when, what, where, who, when.
Okay,
So I can go home.
you can go home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other public comments? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last month's meeting.
We need to do these individually.
Yeah, we should. We have first finance committee meeting minutes. Any comments, corrections? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the finance committee minutes.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Carried. Governing board meeting.
I have one change.
Okay.
On page 10, the CEO approved CEO job description. I don't think I'm the one who made those recommendations. I think Gary was the one who asked for those changes. Am I remembering
That's
that right?
correct.
Okay.
Okay. So we can make that one change. Any other corrections, changes? Dr. Pafford?
Just one change to the med staff report. It says that copies were sent out to providers. That probably should be, copies were sent out to all providers except Dr. McClellan and Dr. Gardner, and they will receive copies in the future.
What page is that on?
I couldn't hear what you said.
Page 7.
7.
Under medical staff report.
Yeah, it says there that copies were sent out to providers with signature page. As I said in that meeting, copies were sent out to all providers except Dr. McClellan and Gardner, but they will receive a copy in the future. If we could just make that little correction.
Okay.
Please.
With that, any other corrections?
I move that we approve the board meeting minutes from July 31st.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we have special board meeting minutes from August 20th. Any corrections or concerns? And I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the special board meeting minutes from August 20th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Next we have hospital reports, medical staff report, Dr. Pafford.
Nothing new to share at this time. unless you have any specific questions.
Does anybody in the board have any questions for Dr. Patrick?
Wasn't he supposed to be doing some kind of training?
As we discussed previously, we're doing some looking at coursework and whatnot available through American College of Physician Executives, and got lots of great stuff. Overwhelming.
Anything else? Okay. CEO report.
Well, Mitzi just reminded me, we should introduce Ray Fredette. I think the board is aware that Kirsten Locke, is still with us. She's, taken night shifts. I guess she's working, 3/12s and a little bit easier schedule or a different schedule. And they have transitioned, duties, and Ray is in the saddle, so to speak, I guess, and doing his thing. He's been meeting with our weekly leadership team meetings, and it's going well, and a lot of work to do. He's got a lot to learn, and we threw him right into the middle of a couple of hot issues that we might talk to the board about. One of them, I think, in executive session, on some issues that really appreciate him stepping in there and taking a firm hold and being part of our leadership team. It's great to have him. I'll just try to, I do tend to be too long-winded. I did not prepare a written report. There was an awful lot going on, but I'll just cover, just very briefly, about 6 or 7 items just that I've been working on, spent a lot of time since the last board meeting. And then I will go into a little bit of detail on what's going on with maintenance in the physical plant, just to keep you up to speed there. Some of them kind of involved that St. Regis Clinic discussion we had about the weeds yesterday, and I think it's a small issue, but it's a big issue to the St. Regis folks, and I'll talk about that during the maintenance follow-up, and just to let you know what's going on with the physical plant. The areas that have, and a lot of these are on the agenda later, we'll talk about them. I've spent just a huge chunk of time in the last 30 to 60 days with the CEO recruitment committee and Amy. We have and the full board with the process. So we'll go through that later on in the agenda, but certainly it's consumed a bunch of time on my part over the last couple of months. The same with the St. Regis Clinic discussions. It's on the agenda also, and we'll talk about that later on in the agenda. But a couple of other things that have taken a ton of time are the subpoena. We do have a subpoena that we're responding to. I can't say much more about that. We'll talk about that in executive session as well. There were a lot of data requests with that subpoena. We've completed most of those, but I continue to work on and spend a considerable amount of time on one of those data requests, which is probably enough said, about that subpoena. What's that? Did somebody say something? Was that one of Cliff's comments?
No, that was one of mine, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Well hidden.
Oh. Well, I'm getting old, my hearing's, kind of going, I thought I heard something over there. All right. And, as we discussed at the Finance Committee before, Stacy and Cliff and Deb and I have spent huge tons of time on cash flow and budget issues, especially the cash flow issues. And again, we'll talk about that probably in other parts of the agenda as well. Don't need to go into a lot of detail there, but just to summarize, we are working through the issues. As I thought Cliff said it very well earlier today to a couple of groups a couple of times, that this hospital has certainly been there before with these tough issues with cash flow. The team is working on it very hard, and we will get through it. I'm sure it will, you know, with a lot of cooperation with a lot of folks, the board, and leadership team, and everyone. We'll get through that and move forward, I'm sure. Again, another, well, Bill kind of mentioned it just a few minutes ago here, but you never know about hospitals. You come in one day and you know you've got some crisis. And my Fridays were wiped out 2 different times in the past month with the inability of us to, you know, we had people that, you know, for a couple of different reasons, had to leave the ER. We didn't have the ER covered. And that took a huge amount of work with Dr. Pafford and also some temp staffing agencies and Kirsten in the first case, you know, to identify a nurse practitioner, and this last time, and also a PA the first time. The PA from Whitefish, who was here in 4 hours, I think 4 or 5 hours to begin coverage for 48 hours for a weekend that we did not have coverage for. And then just last Friday, right, Roger, we had pretty serious, well, maybe I shouldn't go into detail, I guess, about Dr. Michelsel's issues, but I will anyway. His wife had a very serious, apparently a very serious head injury, and he had to leave the ER immediately. And thank goodness for Roger. He was the only one at the clinic last Friday. These things always happen on Friday afternoon in the summer when everybody's got plans.
It's in the bylaw.
Roger came over immediately and covered, but he had plans to go back to Bozeman at you know, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And I got on the phone, well, you know, the staff at the Ray was off also. I mean, he was working shifts last week, actually. But the crew at the front with the nurses, you know, we went through every provider. We have about, 7 or 8 on the list. And everybody, of course, has plans on a nice summer weekend like that. So I called the previous staffing agency that we'd identified the PA with, and thank goodness this lady was over in Spokane. She lives in Red Lodge. Was over in Spokane, nurse practitioner, was visiting her daughter in Spokane, and called me back right away. Of course, I had to, the hospital had to pay a pretty good chunk of change to get her to do this on such short notice. And I think that's what really made it happen. But we did get her over here within, about 4 hours. She showed up. I mean, it was really fortunate that we were able to get that done, and gave her temporary privileges, and got that done. So, I mean, those things do take a lot of hassle and a lot of effort and a lot of attention. You know, I mean, the alternative there is to shut down your ER. It's a patient safety issue, a huge patient safety issue, primarily, let alone economically for the hospital in terms of revenue. I mean, but that's not the issue. That's not the point. I mean, you know, well, the last Friday situation, Roger, I mean, at that time, you know, you had a potential 2-car accident, you know, coming. It didn't come, I don't think, but you know, there's just always in the summer something going on with this ER, and you know, I just wanted to let the board know, I guess, that those things do take time. They do take effort and a lot of teamwork to, you know, to make it work out. Thank goodness it did. I dread the thought of it not working out, though, sometime, you know, when that would happen. You know, we'll do everything possible to identify other alternatives, you know, to make that not happen. I mean, but if it did happen where you couldn't get the coverage, you would have to shut down the ER, divert all the patients into Missoula, probably to the St. Pat's ER, I would assume, and then also ship your acutes and observation patients in there. I mean, you cannot hold those patients, acute patients. We had some discussion in the post-mortem of the event with Ray and others. I don't think you have to do that with, well, you would not have to with long-term care patients, non-skilled, patients and stuff. So. But just not to freak you out if it does happen someday, where you might be faced with that. So just to make you aware. The maintenance projects, the medical record survey, I think I talked about that. That's probably enough. But I do need to just post to you that the reports are coming out of Verna's office, and Dr. Pafford and I do meet every Thursday over sandwiches, except for board meeting day, and we do have some discussion about those delinquent chart lists. Right now, they look in great shape. There's a couple of small issues, I think, on the chart list, and that's going, pretty well. We do have work to do with the medical staff with some changes on the bylaws and rules, bylaws, which we have going on. So that's proceeding. Okay, with the maintenance stuff, I'll start out with the pellets. I really appreciate John last month. He gave us the telephone numbers and contact information for the Johnson brothers, and Sherry was able to finally track those folks down. And by golly, when I came back to Superior this Sunday evening, it was gone.
I saw the truck going down the hill.
Did you?
So, yeah.
Well, I was really quite thrilled to see that the pellets were removed, and we don't have that issue with those pellets anymore. Sherry is proceeding to order pellets. She needs to do that, as I reported, I think last time, for the winter heating season. We don't have too many pellets left, and she's proceeding with that as well. I'll leave the weeds at the St. Regis Clinic till last, but a lot of air conditioning issues. We've had to call Temprite in. Old hospital, takes a lot of maintenance. Systems are difficult at best. They do have issues all the time. The power outages and lightning strikes that occurred last weekend blew out a bunch of the controls. And it's expensive to have Temprite come and fix that, but we really don't have any choice. If we want to have air conditioning, we have to do that. It does add to our costs, certainly. Sherry did report that there's been some discussion, I think, with Trent, and Trent's our disaster planning officer. I don't know what your official title is there, but you handle all that disaster stuff, and the fellow from Bozeman that you introduced me to several months, I guess he was here lately, Helena, that helps with that from the state level. I guess there was some discussion about all the power outages that we had, and he is working on a proposal through the grant process, which we were excited about, to maybe buy us a new generator that would carry the full load, and kind of avoid some of these issues. It's a pretty old generator. It's small. It doesn't really handle the full load of the entire hospital. And so that's in process. We'll report back to you and follow up. Hopefully that proceeds. I'm excited to hear that.
Is that DES, Trent? Or?
No, he's a private consultant.
But the grant is through.
Yeah.
The grant he's talking about, I believe, is DHS.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I believe.
He said it was, I hate to mention this with Mr. Woodland in the room, but he did indicate that this grant competes against the fire department and county disaster offices throughout the state, so
That's okay.
you'll have to back off.
We already have one, and that's why. And mine was through DES, and that's why I was wondering.
Oh, okay, sure.
That's where the question.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard from Sherry anyway
So
yesterday.
next time we lose power, we go to John.
You're Walk, anything you need, come on down. Our building keeps right on running.
Oh, it's a nice
We had
building.
some neighbors come across the street the last time say, how come you guys still have power?
Well, that's the situation with, the power situation and all that. Painting of the Mueller House, if you've driven by there lately, we do not have any offers or anything on that. I think I reported last time we needed to take that carport down. They did that. They're waiting to match the paint up so they can fix that and so it looks decent. George will proceed to show it and stuff as soon as we get that done. That should be done in the next few days. If you recall, I don't know, I think I reported it last winter, but for many years anyway, the roof and the PT portion and that new lab extension and stuff upstairs on the hospital side has been leaky. There's water damaged tiles underneath and they have had water issues. They did this last winter. That's very much on the mind of the maintenance crew. They've got some buckets of sealer, Flex-A-Seal to get up there and fix that before the snow
That's
flies.
the new stuff that we just had built?
Not that part so much. Over in the main PT area, right? Help me here. I think that's, that's more the issue, I think, over in PT.
So it's
not
it's not the
necessarily.
new construction?
No,
I was
don't
gonna say,
think
if they mess that up, boy.
so. No, I don't think. The water damaged tiles that I have seen since the 10 months I've been here have been in the PT area. And we did replace some of those, but it doesn't do you much good if you don't get the water sealed up on top, which they can't do in the winter. But thank goodness they're thinking ahead before the snow flies so that they don't have that problem in the winter or next spring, melt off occurs.
So are they fixing it?
Yes, yes, they, before, we could have, nasty weather in the next couple of weeks. So
we sure could.
It's high on the list of maintenance priorities right now to get that taken care of. Forklift tire was flat. It's an unusual thing, I guess, for a forklift tire, to be flat. I don't understand all of it, but, they have split rims. They're quite dangerous to work on. Cliff probably knows more about that than I do, but.
I know they can kill you if you're not careful.
I know what a
That's
split
right.
rim is, and they are.
Well, that's
extremely
what, the way it was
dangerous, yeah.
explained to me, but just to let you know that that's happening. I'm very happy to report that both the maintenance folks have boiler licenses now, so please don't, community and Leona and everybody else that's reminded me of that constantly in the 10 months I've been here, please know that both of those folks have their boiler license and spread the word, spread the word. Let's see, we also have had a lot of issues this last winter with frozen PVC pipes in the back on the lawn. The lawn looks crappy, if you'll notice in the back. Looks great in the front because we've contracted the lawns in the front with Green Acres Lawns. This fellow named Ryan Morrison, he's done a great job this summer. And Neri does a great job with the flowers. It looks very nice around the front. But because of our staffing issues and we only have 2 maintenance staff where we used to have 3, and it's difficult to keep the back lawn looking right, and the sprinkler system did freeze up, and it wasn't blown out right by the previous, well, we won't talk about specifics there, but it was not, let's just put it that way, it was not blown out correctly last winter. They're trying to get that fixed again and make sure it does get blown out properly and fixed so that next year we can water that thing and make it look appropriate and much better than it does now.
Ryan does that also, he does ours at home.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job, we appreciate him doing it. It's a lot less expensive for us to contract with him than to pay the labor of, we figured it out was about $1,400 a month versus about $600 a month. So to pay the labor of one of our folks to do it, to do all of the lawns and the mowing and trimming and everything that needs to be done. They're also working on,
I was
excuse me.
gonna say, particularly if you need one more person to be able to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, usually there's another half-time person, or in the past, there've been 3 people, you know, which is consumed about half to 3/4 time. And that's the $1,400 comparison. So it's definitely cost effective for us to do it that way. Smoke barriers, you know, hospitals and long-term care facilities, it's very important that you know, the state has a fit when the life safety code people show up, and they'll write it up immediately if you have a bunch of penetrations. And you know, I've been working with the maintenance crew to fix that ever since I've been here. They've done some of it, but they also have more to do. You know, more to do, and they are working on that and getting that fixed. Another big issue before the snow flies, the state has requested, the boiler inspector apparently has requested that they break down the boiler. I've never seen this before, but break down the boiler, then they call in the inspector and, I don't know, look at it, approve it, broken down, and then rebuild it. I mean, basically, rebuild it. Sure, he said it was a greasy, grimy job, but they're proceeding to get that done. It is a request of the boiler inspector folks, and so that hasn't been done apparently, and should have been done, I think, for quite a while. So that's also in process, and it really needs, again, to be done before the snow flies. So there's a lot on their table. I guess that's the main point. The last thing is the weeds at the St. Regis Clinic. You know, we own the St. Regis Clinic. We're working with the St. Regis. We'll talk about that later on the agenda as well. But that certainly was an issue when we had a meeting with them, well, just yesterday, wasn't it? Maybe 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. We'll talk about that later. And you know, that shouldn't be like that. It definitely should not be like that. We all recognize that, certainly from hearing about it very strongly from the St. Regis group that we met with 2 days ago. And so we did send Ryan Morrison, or we're trying to. Sherry had not contacted. I asked her immediately the next morning to get a hold of him and get down there and, you know, take care of the weeds. And, you know, that's we thought we had it solved earlier in the spring with a high school kid. High school kids never stay with you very long. I think he did it once, and we couldn't identify anyone else, so it didn't get done. It should have, but it is on the mend, so just to let you know.
Call me, I would gone down with my weed whacker.
Well, actually, a couple of people, Dr. McClellan informed me that he did it once.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dunlap, right, from, wasn't it Mr. Dunlap?
I think so, yeah.
From the Resort Tax Board.
Well,
Also,
his office is right next door, well,
Oh,
just
is it?
right around the corner, yeah.
well, he also indicated he had done it once, but it's very out of control now, apparently. I haven't been down there.
Say, I don't go by there very often.
It hasn't grown much in the last month. It's pretty
Well, yeah,
bad.
Deb goes by it
It looks
every
horrible,
day,
but
twice.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
it looks
Roundup.
terrible.
Yeah, it does. So, we are addressing that, and it's on the mend. That's it.
Okay. Next item, we'll probably go through this pretty fast. We've been carrying employee morale as a agenda item. Stacy, you think things are
Yeah,
turned around, or?
I thought they were last month, so
Okay.
I haven't seen any.
Okay. Well, and if you do, we'll take it
You know,
off.
I don't know that people always talk to me though, so I can't say that it is,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
it
what?
hasn't been brought to my attention.
Okay. Larry, you on the same page with that at this point?
Yeah, I am, John.
Okay.
I think, you know, one thing with the CEO, I mean, you know, I'm a very transparent kind of person. I mean, and certainly in every CEO assignment I've ever had, I spend more time than I've been able to, certainly in the last 2-3 months, in doing my rounds and getting around and talking to people. I've been trying to get over to the assisted living facility. think a lot of times that heads off some of these issues, if you can just sit, you know, you just listen, you know, to people's concerns, head off the rumors that get started. Maybe we haven't done as good a job, or I haven't, in the last couple of months of that, so hopefully we can, in the next few months that I have remaining, you know, I can get around and, you know, make sure that we're communicating and answering questions and addressing concerns that employees do have, so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about it last month too. Certainly the decibel level is definitely lower now than it was 10 months ago today. It was 10 months ago today when I came here. And those first few months, it was up here, certainly. We've talked about that before. I think it's getting better. It's never perfect, I guess.
No.
Just, you know, it's a good reminder that we need to, you know, pay attention to communicating with people and listening and making sure that people have the right information.
Okay. Next gen report. Who's gonna start that one? Is that Deb
I'll
end up
start.
with that?
I'll start. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about a lot of details that's going on with Next Gen in the finance committee, but, you know, we're starting to see cash flow come in. We've posted over 400,000 so far in August. We have, probably a little bit more that'll be in, but it'll probably hit somewhere around the $420,000 range, which the couple previous months we were hitting low 300s and into the 280s for posting cash. So we're starting to see that turn around. We continue to work on checking claims and making sure charges are in before we release them to go out the door. We still have a lot of work to do on surgery. As I was telling the finance committee board, surgery is very detailed and very difficult to do. But then we have things like yesterday we had Dr. Gardner and Dr. McClellan working on the same patient in the surgery, which is gonna be very difficult to figure out how to bill it, because they'll probably come back and say one needs to go to workman's comp and one needs to go to Medicare. But anyway, we'll get through it, but it is complicated in making sure that we're getting things done. What we're seeing from the billing side is, again, the clinical staff they're continuing to do better, to understand the program better. We're seeing more charges come through. And I think with Ray's leadership on some of that stuff, it'll just enhance and we'll just keep growing. The claims that I checked this morning that were from the 25th, I had 2 accounts out of 25 that I couldn't release. So you know, things are moving along. I think there's some difficulties with the things then moving into the financial and the general ledger piece and part, which Cliff is working on, and there needs to be some more work done on that end so that we can get financials out and really understand how things are falling into the financials. If I'm putting a charge in August, is it going to August revenue or is it going to April revenue, because it was really done in April? Some of those things we're not sure of yet, so some things are kind of wish-washy on some of that stuff, but we're getting things into the system. Tonight continues to work on the meaningful use part. Our meaningful use numbers are good, and we will be sending in attestation information here in the next little bit. Cliff and I sat through a webinar the other day, and it took them. We were able to get into the Medicare system and get to the meaningful use questions. That worked okay. We went into the Medicaid questions, and it took Cliff about 30 minutes to get the lady to understand that his email address was CC Case, not C. Is that case with a K or with a C? A C. So anyway, I think after 20 minutes, we got his email finally in the system, but he never got email.
What did he say?
He
said
never got the email.
So, there might be a little bit more work on the Medicaid part of that, but we're ready to, send those numbers in and so that will then in turn create more cash that comes back in that will pay for our meaningful use and our new EHR system. Anything to add?
I'm not prepared to talk about next gen yet, just because I'm still so new, but next month I'll come with some
Fair enough.
official input.
Yeah. Okay. Cliff, okay, no other comments, or, okay. All right, Foundation Board Meeting, Mitzi.
They're just working really hard on the golf tournament. It's September 20th. If anyone knows of anybody that wants to play on the team, you can let me know, or anybody that's on the foundation.
I do have one to give you later.
Okay.
That they wanted to,
Super.
and you should always invite all of the MHA people. Because Dick or Bob or somebody will come over and play.
They will.
From MHA, so.
Mineral Regional Health Center report. Bill, do you wanna?
Well, just, things are going pretty good. We've, finished, we're wrapping up the year end. Our auditors we have auditors in this week, so we've been tied up heavy with auditors all week, and, trying to get the year end wrapped up, but, we continue to improve. July was kind of a down month, but August seems to be improving quite nicely in August for our number of patient count, which is probably gonna be the highest month since about January in our number of patient count, so, that's looking good, and we're, just, seem to be moving on pretty smoothly now.
And I think one of the numbers we heard and saw, and I think was talked about a little bit in the financial committee meeting too for the health center, is that they're seeing quite a decent number of what we're calling new patients, and that's either somebody we've never seen before or somebody we hadn't seen.
During July, we saw
3 years.
35 patients that were either new or we had not seen in at least 3 years. And in August, so August through about Monday was 28 new patients that we were new or have not been seen in 3 years. So that's encouraging. We seem to be getting some patients back and seeing some new patients.
Lonnie more than likely deserves some level of credit for that, I would think. And, you know, obviously, if we're getting people back, that's gonna mean the hospital's gonna get referrals across for labs and tests as well, so.
Yeah, we formed a new community relations committee that Monty is handling that, and they had their first meeting yesterday, had 9 people in attendance, and of course, as happened with everything, they wanting to talk both about hospital and clinic issues at the thing, but it's the first of having regular meetings with community relations, and that they're gonna continue having.
Oh, is that just a health center committee?
Yeah, that's a
Or
health
is it-
center committee.
You know, I'm just curious if we wanna consider that being a joint committee.
Well, that, after the comments yesterday, we might wanna talk with Monty and see if that might be considered to make that a joint deal of where, invite community people in to talk about issues, and, because he did comment that there was a lot of joint issues
Right.
between two, and you're never gonna split them completely
Right.
out, so we might wanna consider that, try to make it a joint committee between the two.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent idea, and I don't know that in order to make it a joint committee between the two, do we have to do anything more than just declare it so?
Well, you might wanna, since Monty works for both of us, I mean, he could report back to both of us on it.
Right.
Yeah,
But I think Kim attended didn't attend the whole meeting, but she attended some of it, so if we made it joint, maybe someone from the hospital might wanna send someone down to attend it also and just listen. But we don't wanna interfere wanna let them be free with their communications and not kinda interfere too much with this committee. Let it be more a community committee than a committee of ours. We don't wanna inundate them with a bunch of employees or anything, so.
Well, and then maybe the best way to do it is to go back to that committee through Monty, and ask them if they would be willing to serve in that capacity for both, and just call it that, and then from there invite somebody from the hospital, leadership team to also attend.
I'll discuss that with Monty. I don't know when our next meeting is, but I'll discuss it with him then, and he approached that from it being a joint committee.
Maybe Tanay or something, you know, somebody like that.
Yeah.
You know, is not so imposing, you know, shut the discussion down or something.
Okay. Everybody in agreement with trying to proceed in that fashion? Okay. I don't think that requires any formal action on our part at this point, so,
Thanks, Bill.
let's try and move forward. That's great. Any questions for Bill on the health center report? If not, we'll move on. Finance committee report. Lloyd.
Well, I'm not really sure what to submit. We do have a report that came off of NextGen for March, April, May, and the data is a little bit still at question as far as the accuracy of it. But I guess there's a question mark as when it goes into a monthly bucket, is it really the right bucket? As Deb was saying, it could have been April activity, or is it really July's activity? But, so, working with a computer, it produces data real fast and it puts it where it wants to, and hopefully it'll come out right and it's over with.
Well, we just have to tell it where, the computer only does what we tell it to do, so.
Yep.
I think it's pretty well known that our cash flow has not kept up with our expenses, so therefore, to make things neat, we've utilized the letter credit there, so our cash reserves are depleted, so we now have to hope that this month, the next month, and et cetera, we get our cash flow up, enough to handle the bills, and start looking at putting some reserve back in.
Yeah, I mean, we've utilized, actually, as I understand it, both the letter of credit, and we've also utilized the credit we have with our suppliers, and which is another form of borrowing. Deb's feeling that we're gonna start to see more and more cash roll in now as we're coming out of the far side of this whole next gen and getting the billing out. And as she mentioned in the report earlier, there's still more to be done there, but hopefully that's gonna turn that around, and it has to, because we don't have a lot of other places left to go.
How close to accurate do we think this is?
That was
Sorry.
exactly.
I mean, cause I'm looking like, really, looking at the loss numbers are enormous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
I mean, how close do we think we are?
Well, and part of what that
I
is,
guess we don't really know till we know, but
yeah, and part of what those loss numbers are that
we can't
the
bill.
expense
We
kept
haven't been
going
able to
on, but
bill
we
it.
haven't been able to bill, so
Right.
that's not necessarily that level of loss for operations for that time period so much as,
All the charges that might not, are probably not in there yet either, so that's where your revenue comes from. The expense side, we feel pretty good about. The revenue side,
Well,
but it won't be any less than what it shows.
You mean it won't be worse.
the revenue won't be
Right.
less. That's good.
Can you tell that computer to plug the holes in that bucket?
Whatever the programmer tells it to do.
Well, and when you start telling computers to plug holes as opposed to actually plugging the holes, you're now getting into very bad territory.
I just keep teasing Stacy and telling her I have to bring it in slowly because she spends it so fast. Not true, but.
well, just
Yeah, she's not spending it, she's just paying for the spending.
For things that were already charged.
Yeah.
Cliff, did you want to add anything else to the finance?
No.
Okay.
Are we able to, so you're talking about putting in, sending the attestation stuff for next gen. Does this hold it up, the fact that we can't close out months?
No,
It doesn't
no,
hold it
they're
up?
not related.
Yeah, that's the meeting for use is all in terms of the electronic records for the
For
patients.
clinical
Yeah,
side, okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Bylaws committee, Jim?
No report. I
Clinical
give my
outlook.
5 minutes to somebody else.
No.
We can get together now that the kids are in school. I
Right.
have some little less chaos during the day, so.
Okay.
So we'll schedule something.
Clinical outcomes, quality improvement, Gary.
We did not have either meeting since the last board meeting. I'd like to thank Kirsten for her time and effort she's made in these things, and with the resources that she has to do quality improvement activities. Welcoming Ray, to get involved in that. I think your official designation in that regard is quality improvement coordinator. Is that an official title?
Yes.
Yeah. So, kind of reiterating what we had on page 9 in the minutes about the importance of quality. We spent a lot of time, and rightfully so, on financial things. But, eventually, I don't know which is first, the chicken or the egg. Eventually,
Well, quality helps your financials.
I
yeah,
agree 100%.
and eventually we're gonna be paid by those parameters that we measure and report and that are good or not be paid. And we had one example of that with medical records just recently. And there was an issue there, and never got to that point, but there was an issue where Medicare could have pulled the plug on us. But we got things rectified. But that would be a big hammer if drop on us. So I'm just kind of, what I'd like for Ray to be thinking about would be, we've always struggled with resources, and we're struggling now when we're talking about finances. But when you run up against something, Ray, that looks like it's not want to do, or could be done, but something we really have to do, and we have to dedicate, some resource to it somehow, that you'd let us know, because we don't want to get too far behind the curve here on this, and keeping up, and I know we've got a whole bunch of new PIN data to report in on, and so just to reinforce the importance of this, and that's kind of where I am.
No, and I would only second what you just said. I mean, I think it's just so important. If you're not doing a quality job, the community's not going to trust you, the community's not going to use you. And as you mentioned, our compensation is more and more going to be key to quality too as we move forward. And quite frankly, I think everybody in this room is doing this job at least in part because they think it is important to provide good quality care. We're not interested in doing the job anything less but well. So I would second that completely.
I would just mention that, in the very short time we, had Ray, involved with this, and certainly Kirsten before, we've focused a great deal on quality and across the spectrum. In previous discussions, with Gary too, we've talked about and actually did work on at one of those QI meetings previously, some resources that were available through the PIN, the Performance Improvement Network. Ray is already, he's in the process, I guess. We've certainly talked about it, of contacting those folks. Unfortunately, Kathy Wilcox, the lady that we talked to that day, has left after 12 years, has left the PIN. Although I got an email and that happened right after we made the decision that, you know, Ray was gonna join the team, and I was very much looking forward to getting him together with Kathy and you know, outlining, you know, a real solid approach in terms of QI and, you know, putting some resources to it that hopefully wouldn't cost us a lot of money. But they have hired a new person, actually I think a recent graduate, industrial engineering graduate, more like a lean person, I think, you know, a lean process person, but, you know, to assist with, you know, take Kathy's place, so, we'll continue to work on that and move forward. You're right, we have to have an active QI program that involves every department head, and we have to start meeting right away to make sure that, you know, if we don't have that, you're right, the consequence is that the surveyors come in and, you know, not only, you know, I mean, and that's the least of it, I guess. Well, it's pretty important, I guess, because they can shut down your, you know, your Medicare reimbursements if you don't meet those standards. But also, in terms of patient safety and patient quality, I mean, that's the real issue. I mean, that's the real issue and the way you turn the whole thing around.
Yeah, we did get, you know, behind the curve a little bit because of NextGen, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there's
Gotta get out of that.
deservedly, there's some slack there that was needed to be cut, and we did, but now it's kind of time to kind of mend the fence, you know.
Those PIN people are, you know, we'll talk about it later in the agenda toward the end, but I think, we did the MHA convention. Those PIN folks will be at the MHA convention, and Ray and I both talked about maybe, I think it would be wise if we somehow found the money, even though we are somewhat short, but we'll talk about that with the whole group here at the end. But I think it's pretty important that we probably get him down there to make those contacts with the PIN folks down in Billings at the MHA.
Yep, no, it's a key central issue that we have to keep focused on.
What resources do you need to have an effective QI program?
Well, time, you know, just raise time and attention to move it forward. It's just difficult with all the balls that we juggle all at the same time, you know, give it some priority, and Gary's right, you know, we just need to, and Ray's certainly aware of that. We've had, you know, a bunch of discussion about it already. And I think, you know, the proper training, the proper, you know, orientation to the PIN, I think that's a great resource. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there, and they can point Ray in the direction with a quick phone call with Montana folks, you know, to, you know, head it in the right direction.
You know, we've had, you know, Kim Gordon and Kirsten, you know, they both are really supportive of it. The problem seems to be that they get called out from their projects, you know, they're on the floor or something, you know, they're in the middle of something, they just don't have the time it takes to dig in, and so we've even suffered, you know, recently with some of the, you know, like the pneumonia and the MI reports, you know, that, and so, and a lot of that's a function of just not having the time to get it out.
Well, we're certainly aware, and we'll come back to you next month, or Ray will, you know, when he gets his feet on the ground a little bit. He needs some time to, you know, to get into it.
Well, and, I mean, there's an obvious solution that right now we can't afford in terms of giving more time by adding to the staff so that they have more times. Obviously, we're not in a position to do that right now. Hopefully, we can get to that position.
Let me add that the trifecta of quality programs with insurance, assurance, and control are very high up on my agenda, and I'm very passionate about it. I'm excited most, I think, about that part of my job. I know that there's a lot more to do as a director of nursing, but quality programs are very important, and I'm excited to enlist my staff as well. This isn't just going to be me and maybe a couple select individuals. There will be roundtable meetings with ideas, and I've got personal contacts outside of the facility that I plan to enlist on this. And again, I'm very excited to bring some new ideas to the table.
Great, good.
That's really great.
excited to hear them, so, good. Okay, CEO Recruitment Committee, I guess that one's,
Do we have this one?
D,
oh, did I miss one? Yep, I'm sorry, Carol, Customer Satisfaction Committee. That's what happens when I doodle like
Is
these
there
things.
still a committee?
I haven't heard from anybody for over a month, so I don't know what's happening
Who's,
I'm not sure.
tonight.
Tonight.
Tonight runs.
Maybe we can have him come next time and talk about it,
okay,
or figure out if they are still proceeding. He's been focusing a lot on.
he's been on the next gen too, hasn't he?
Right,
And
well, and some of these billing
specifically
issues,
the- for
yeah,
use
he's
of-
been, the surgery crew and also Central Supply with Jan Testa, they've been sorting through some of those issues to try to get those charges into the next gen system appropriately. It was holding up some other stuff, you know, especially the supply issue.
All right, well, let's put specifically request that he come to next month's meeting.
Sure.
this might be relevant to invite Monty as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they're both, they work together very closely.
okay, okay, good point. Okay, next one, CEO recruitment. That seems to be going pretty well. I think we've got a couple of potential really good candidates. We had the interview,
I'll tell you,
Yeah, be careful,
that's right,
don't wanna jeopardize this.
that's right, okay.
Yeah, don't put it.
Take it. Thank you. We had one interview and we have an individual coming to the community for a tour. Who'll be here next Tuesday, bringing his family to get a look around and see what we are and meet with us. There's a schedule I think's been distributed. We'll have a general welcome session here in the morning, and any of the items on the schedule that call for board, as many of you as can attend, that would be really great, both in terms of being able to meet him and talk with him and get a feel for somebody you may be making a decision on, and secondly, letting him get a good feel for who we are too, because I think that would be a positive. We also have a second individual that we've received a resume from that I guess Larry and Amy, you've talked to him.
yeah, we've interviewed him.
And we're pretty impressed. So our next step is to try and get scheduled for a full board opportunity, and I don't know whether, Mitzi, you're working on that, or where are we for that, or you?
I will be
Okay, okay.
after today.
We've been handing Mitzi a lot of stuff lately.
Yeah.
But,
Superwoman.
yeah, yeah, she's been handed a lot of things to schedule, I know, and with kind of, what's that thing about herding cats with kind of large groups of people?
Yeah.
12 to 15 people trying to schedule one meeting is
Yeah,
not fun.
yeah, so.
Well, and I would just like to add that I've been really impressed with the quality of the candidates that we've had. That was, initially, I was just really concerned, like, we're never gonna be able to
I was too.
recruit, you know, I was just very concerned that we were gonna be able to get the good quality candidates, but we,
out there beating the brush for you guys,
well,
Some
we've
of that
done a good
is-
job,
some
some
of
of
that
it's
is
been hard worked for.
paid off, you know.
Yeah.
But, we've had some very, very good candidates, so,
Yeah, I would agree.
Is that because your wife is pushing you?
There's a certain amount of truth in that, yeah.
but
Yes.
But,
come with your questions on Tuesday, and, my thought was we could do more situational. I mean, we covered a lot of, just with the phone interviews, it's very structured, and I think we need to delve further, into more detail and to more character type of things this come in, so. Real excited about it.
I would kind of summarize it that, I would assume, Amy, that we've probably talked to 15 well, we've looked at 15 to 20 CVs, resumes, I don't know, maybe close.
About a dozen, I think.
Oh, no, maybe a few.
Maybe 15, there's maybe.
I I'm not sure, I didn't ever, maybe a couple of them that I didn't even send
That
to you,
could-
you know, that were
that-
just
that could be
obviously
true.
unqualified.
Yeah, that
I
could
would
be
say
really-
that there's, you know, probably close to at least 15, because we had some that, you know, I don't even know. And we whittled it down, I mean, at this point, well, we, at one point, we had I thought five really good qualified candidates. We interviewed 2 of those, and 1 dropped out, and then a couple more surfaced, if you consider, the one from Colorado as a quality applicant, and the one that we're talking about here. So there's about 4 left, and, you know, hopefully you'll, I mean, it's totally board decision, and hopefully a lot of input from leadership teams and others, but medical staff as well. And I would think you should be able to finish that up in the next couple, 3 weeks.
I'm confident that we can.
Yeah, and I certainly share Amy's comments that I'm very excited about the quality of the people we're seeing, and had initially the same concerns, but I think we're seeing some people that would really do what we need for this community and for this facility, so I'm very pleased with it.
I know,
Right.
that's the other upside, yeah.
Yeah,
What was the fee paid to Menai at your,
It was like 20,000.
20,000?
Yeah, and we got
And we did it
20,000.
for nothing, you know, with our own resources.
yeah, yeah. No.
I was thinking about that the other day, I couldn't remember the
I
fee.
mean, that included their time and the dinners and the travel.
Oh,
We're
everything.
still gonna pay some of that, but
Yeah.
not
Right,
to that
Right.
extent.
yeah,
Right.
that's great. Good. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about Missy's schedule for this candidate next
I
week?
just have one question about the schools tour. So, is there someone from St. Regis that we need to hook up?
I talked to Mr. Steele this
Oh,
morning,
okay.
and I also talked to Michelle Parkin, and she's going to take them here, and I'm hoping that she can transport them here or there to St. Regis.
To meet with Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't think Michelle would be the person to try
No,
and
no.
help,
No. I talked with.
help on the St. Regis side.
Talked with Tina Hill
Hill?
this morning,
Okay.
and then I talked to the principal,
Okay.
so I was very happy to do that.
Just from experience, it's really important, this work that Missy's been doing, though. It's a real
It's a big
tough job, it's a
to
big
do.
job, but
To get everyone on board.
it's really important to, you know, structure it so that those candidates and the board and the medical staff and everyone, the leadership team, everybody have their chance to talk to those candidates and the employees in terms of the tour, you know, the whole bit. And then feed that back to the board
Well, and the casual social gathering
at Trestle Creek.
at Trestle Creek.
Is that a cocktail party, or is it dinner, or what is it?
No,
Burgers and hot dogs and salads.
bring your own beer if you want.
So right now, it's.
Don't put that in the
It's
paper.
basically, so right now, that's with
Brown
board
bag.
members, candidates, spouses, medical providers, leadership team. How do we feel about inviting some community leaders?
Well, that's fine.
Do we wanna open it up to,
Does it make sense to do that while we're still in the selection process?
or wait until we hire someone
I
and
think
then
wait
do an
till we
open house or
hire and then you
something?
do an open house and an introduction.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
okay.
Otherwise, you've got community members trying to influence your decision based on who knows what. I think that, I mean, we certainly want to introduce the new CEO to the community, but I don't think
Or
it
that they
makes
wanna be
sense.
confidential, and if it doesn't work out,
Yeah,
then you have some repercussions there.
yeah.
Is there more discussion about this candidate in the executive committee?
Mhm.
Yes,
I think we can, yeah.
yeah, there is,
Yeah,
It's a personnel
I had a
issue.
comment.
Okay, yeah.
there were some
Definitely can.
references and things like that, so.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right, Professional Affairs Committee, Amy.
Well, I'm not on that committee anymore,
Okay,
so I can't really report to that, but, so I don't know if, John, you wanna do that, or Tanya? Would be the one for that
And
committee.
Tanya is gone, the
Okay.
committee hasn't
So
really.
then I think we should have Tanya do that.
Yeah, that works, yep, yep.
But if there's no privileges request, there
No.
isn't gonna be anything for that committee.
Right, the only thing was just I did sign the temporary
The temporary
privilege
privileges.
for the one individual that Larry talked about.
Well, actually, you
So
signed
that-
both of them.
Well, yeah, yeah.
We had two of them that I
Yep.
talked about earlier.
Yep.
One was Lorraine Dupre, the PA, and the minutes should probably reflect that, Dr. Pafford, as the chief of staff, John Woodward is the board chair, and Larry is the interim CEO. We reviewed, his credentials, if you will. He has malpractice insurance, has malpractice insurance, is licensed in the state of Montana, and has a DEA license. Those are the main things. With her, with the PA, Dr. Pafford also confirmed and talked to her sponsoring physician, and we made sure that the sponsoring physician had malpractice, which is important. So those were the 5 pieces of documentation in that file, and it probably should reflect in a motion in the minutes that you folks are on record with. We just went ahead and granted the temporary privileges, and we checked with Julie, and that's okay.
How does that work with someone like that when their sponsoring physician doesn't have to be the physician that's at the facility? Do you have to send the charts and everything to the sponsoring physician to look at those, or
Well,
how does that work?
chart review, I don't think we have a policy on per se. I will tell you that even though that provider is responsible for that PA, so to speak, or whatever, I did offer, she could call me.
Sure.
The other part of it is I am willing to review that person's charts for our purposes, even though I'm not her supervising provider. And I mean, I think that's the best we can do under those circumstances. I think
wasn't sure that worked.
Yeah, I think that the bottom line is, the way the bylaws are written and the way that it works is a PA can work wherever they want to within the state, as long as they have a state license, and then you have that supervising physician who technically the patient, that physician's responsible for. If there's an issue, I mean, granted, we're responsible if there were any liability as well, but everything done in good faith, according to the standards of law, that was observed. But I still said, hey, call me if you have any questions.
Okay.
Because obviously that provider doesn't know how things are done regionally.
Right.
And that's fine. That's just what we'll do. I'm available. I don't care where I'm at. We'll just do it. Do what's best for the patient, for us,
And the same motion or a separate motion should be, let's see, what's the name here? Mary Ellen Doty, D-O-T-Y, is a nurse practitioner. She's an NP. They do not have a sponsoring physician requirement, do not have to have
NP.
that, which was nice. In this case, we did not have to. And she provided 3 pieces of documentation. She had a Montana license, we confirmed that, Dr. Pafford and I confirmed that. She had medical malpractice, they faxed us a certificate of insurance, and a DEA certification. So those 3 pieces of documentation were appropriate, and we signed off on the temporary privileges for that.
It was Mary Ellen Doty, and what was the other name?
The first one was Lorraine. Actually, her legal name is Linda Lorraine Dupre, D-U-P-R-E-E, physician assistant.
Good job.
All right, could I have a motion on?
Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't, though, Roger.
What is it that the board needs to approve?
Just, you need to back us up, I guess, that we granted her, both those people, temporary privileges. I don't know that it's legally required. Up in Malta, I never did do that. The board, we had the authority within the bylaws to do that. But just to make you aware, I guess,
If you think you need a motion, let's just do it.
Yeah, I think just as a further backup to, to make, that the minutes reflect that it was done and you're okay with that.
Okay.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, we're doing that, a single motion for both? Yeah, that's fine.
If you're okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next item, St. Regis Clinic future, I would like to hold that off to executive session because there is a potential for litigation in that matter, so that should be discussed in executive. Continuing suspension of employer retirement
We didn't need to
contributions.
put that on there, did we?
I don't think we really needed to have it on there. I mean, it's simply a matter of, it continues until such time as we have enough financial information that we can make a change.
We just don't wanna forget about it, cause it's
Right.
something really important.
Yep.
We won't let you.
Yeah.
You are.
Stacy won't.
Well, and I agree with Stacy. I don't think we should forget it either, and I won't. MHA convention, Larry and John, and Larry, boy, I'll let you take lead on that.
Well, we had some discussion in executive committee with the board's executive committee about the MHA convention. I'm used to, in facilities I've been in, where you take, for a lot of good reasons, there's just great educational opportunities for the board there. I think the board needs to decide if we are cash constrained, so, whether you want to send one or two or three. We even talked about as many as three, but, that's your decision, I guess, how we want to handle that. I will go, if we have a new CEO, and I'm hoping that we might have, I doubt whether we probably will at this point, but even if we don't, if maybe they could, if you have made a decision, then that person could join me in Billings. There's just a lot that can be learned, a lot of contacts that can be made in relationships that pay off, certainly with the CEO. My travel, one CEO expenses, and I think I can get MHA to pay for both of our, at least our mileage. They pay for your gas. They have a deal where they pay for your gas down there. For the CEO, not for anybody else. Unfortunately, they used to pay for our hotel bill for 3 nights. They don't do that anymore, so that would be an expense that would occur. And then Ray, I talked about Ray earlier. I think it's important that Ray go. Cliff indicated that, although Cliff, in thinking about it, he's been to a couple of things, in the last, 10 months.
There was some email they sent out with items.
There were some good things on the agenda there.
Yeah, they never have something for CFOs at those things, and they just.
Yeah,
This time they did.
yeah, I noticed that too.
I didn't look at it, I just mentioned that.
I don't know, maybe the way to handle it, we still are in time for the early bird registration, but it is, the costs are a $250 registration fee for each person. I might be able to get that waived too. I have been successful in doing that in the past, but I don't know the current situation at MHA, at least for a couple of us.
There is a group fee.
Yeah, there is a group fee that
$500 for everybody, so.
Right, that's correct, so. Anyway, I don't know how we want to handle it, but we need to figure out how this, we need to get, and the way you register, you have to select the sessions that you're going to attend. You have to let them know. So I can get you the link, or however you want to handle it, and we can decide. I'm open to some feedback about how many people we should send, and how you want to handle all that.
Assuming we're doing at least 2, it's gonna be the $500 group fee then.
Yeah, I forgot about that, that's.
Yeah, and then the hotel is, anybody got a number, 89?
115, 20 probably at the.
Per night?
The one I
At
registered at
least.
was 99.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so there are some,
Yeah.
was it the Holiday Inn?
It was the place with Grand or something.
Oh, the one next door.
Yeah.
Are you going, Gary?
Yeah, I'm going.
You're going.
Oh, okay,
I mean-
so through innovations, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Holiday
Oh,
Inn's
great.
usually gonna be between $100 and $120 a night.
Right,
Every concert I've done, we've ever.
right,
The MHA discount was $99, that's what I got.
okay, okay.
Well, and, you know.
And we
I
could
agree.
carpool, we talked about carpooling,
Right.
you know, use the hospital car to, you know, go down there.
If is there a decent amount of stuff on there for Ray, that this will be a benefit?
Yeah, I just was looking at it last night. There's some pin stuff, well, a number of things, value-based purchasing from the clinical perspective, there was some, you know, stuff like
What's
that.
the dates? I don't remember.
It's the weekend of the 21st, I know that, 21st,
Right,
22nd.
it's always the third
Wednesday,
weekend.
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, it's three weeks from now, isn't it?
Week.
What
It's,
days of the week are they? Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But you'd really have to go Tuesday, because the sessions start at 8 o'clock on Wednesday.
Yeah. So you're not gonna drive to Billings for an 8 AM
No.
session.
Right now, you've got 4 scheduled to go. John, you going?
Well, that's what I think we need to talk about. I am prepared to go, other than the issue of expense and whether I'm necessarily the highest priority as opposed to, for instance, Ray, who's gonna be taking on quality. I mean,
Well, it's different, there's different tracks.
I
You
know
guys
there's
director
different
of nursing,
tracks.
I mean, there's specific tracks for
exactly.
trustees.
well, and I understand that completely, but what I'm saying in terms of how many people we send, expense-wise, yeah, I mean, I would go, I was figuring on going, but there's the expense issue. So,
But you know, if you brought your sleeping bag, you brought Larry,
I have a tent,
and, you know, it might be free.
Maybe a couple sandwiches.
Get a rollaway, John.
Well, I think it would be really beneficial to have
John,
an additional board member, probably you, John, because Gary is gonna be doing, what
I'll be doing
kind of things?
innovations,
That's
and
what I
then there's an
was
all-day workshop, that'll take up one of the days that I'm going to.
Is it the day before, Gary?
I gotta be there on a Monday.
Oh, so it's probably Tuesday.
And then Tuesday, it's an all-day
That's the
workshop.
same with the CEOs, they have a critical access hospital meeting all day Tuesday.
So
That
actually, Gary,
I have to be at.
we wouldn't pay for Gary
No.
because he's under innovation.
yeah, we're not paying for Gary.
So
We'd have
3, maybe Ray and you and Larry.
Yep.
I don't know, you know, personally, I think you should invest the money to send a couple of board members in addition to your.
Is there some,
Because there is some
Yeah.
really good tracks and a lot of great networking opportunities with other board members. They have a Montana Hospital Trustees Association that
we
Lina
talked about
Eggensberger
this.
over in Plains has been active with for years, and others. I mean, there's a lot of trustees there where you can sit down and talk about, well, does it make any sense to affiliate with, St. Pat's or
the
community? What do you
fee,
think?
is that
What does your
depend on-
community think?
is that just a fee regardless of how many people you send? How
Yeah.
does that work?
Yeah,
So,
the registration fee.
Alright,
Okay.
so once you get past the two.
Once you're sending at least 2, yeah.
then it would
Lloyd,
make
would you
sense,
be
we
interested?
should send another trustee if there's someone that can go. I'm not in a position where I can do that.
Oh, you can't go there.
I think
My husband
Lloyd
doesn't have
would
the
make
money.
an excellent candidate,
Lloyd?
financial wise,
Yeah.
to pick people's brains.
Not sure I know what a brain looks like.
Would you be able to go, Lloyd?
I don't know, I'd have to go check.
Well, we can always act on it today with including Lloyd if he's prepared to go.
If it works.
Yeah.
What about Jim?
What about, I mean, if not, could Jim go?
It interferes with my elk hunting in Wyoming.
What's the one over
Yes,
there?
Billings,
Yeah.
going that
Well,
way
you're on the
anyway.
way.
Yeah.
I've gone to Wyoming after I went to Billings before.
I've known lots of people that do hunting after Billings.
Yeah.
Jim, you're so honest.
I would like to go, but I just can't really. Is it always in Billings?
Yeah.
Yes. As I told some of the other folks, usually there are 800 to 1,000 people at it's a big deal. It's the largest convention, I think even including the Medical Association convention in Montana. And there's a trade show with it. There's, it works. I mean, it's a good opportunity to,
Network.
to talk. Yeah, exactly. To network and get a lot of great ideas from peers that are doing the same thing you are in healthcare.
Well,
I've
my
always
biggest
found it
prob-
very beneficial.
My biggest problem, why it's difficult for me is because of the kids, and I can't ask my husband to take more time off, he's already at the end, so.
I would,
Understood.
I would, give it some thought, I really would, and I'll let you know. I can postpone my elk hunt.
Well, it's gonna be too hot then anyway to get some.
Yeah.
Not really. Not at 7,000 feet.
I like that idea of just leave Billings and go straight down to your hunt.
Sure.
There you go.
I don't know, I could do that, but I don't know what I'd do with my wife.
Send her home with the boys.
There is shopping in Billings.
I know that, that's
Yeah.
the
That's the
problem.
problem.
I could go and chauffeur around.
Sure,
if you'd like.
There you go.
Why not?
Send them to hang out with us for a few days.
Sure.
All right, well, I guess we kinda know where we're going with that then.
or Mitzi, I'll probably do it. I'll send around, if you haven't, have all of you seen, or any of you seen the sign-up sheets and
Nope.
and the schedule of the seminars and the workshops?
Nope.
I'll send those around to the people that are,
Is it
Gary,
online?
you've got it, right?
Yeah,
You've registered.
Is it online too, Larry?
Yeah, it is. I'll just send you a link to the, I'll just send them a
I
link.
say, I've looked at some of those links, and all I could ever get to was the vendors' information.
I
Really frustrated.
yeah, that, early on, that's the case.
Okay,
But,
that's probably why I couldn't get to anything, but
I'll send you
I'm really glad
Okay.
that we are doing it this year. We've
Okay.
talked about this in the past, and
All right.
The thing about this convention is, the financial people have their conventions in the state as well, CFOs and billings. This is really the convention for the rest of the hospital. So it's not just trustees and CEOs and DONs, it's, dietary people are
Right.
there, and managed care people are
Right.
there, and it's a whole gamut of all of healthcare for all those other services that happen in the hospital, so it's has so much information.
They also bring in national speakers.
Yes, and it's cheap for your $500
Right,
because it's phenomenal education.
yeah, no, these kinds of things usually are very valuable.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Even one little takeaway, I always try to just get one or at the most two little takeaways that will save the facility money or create additional revenue. There's always some little gem in there that if you really work it and follow up with it, those things, they really pay off, I think, in the long term.
well,
They
and
really do.
my request is that because I believe our board meeting's the following week. Is that
I
right?
think it's that week, isn't it?
In the past, it's fallen on the same week, and we had to reschedule, but I don't.
Where's the?
The September date is September 25th.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we should have rolled a board meeting or something.
I
Probably.
think the 25th's after the convention, isn't it? Yeah, I think so.
It's the Thursday
I
after the
have a
convention.
calendar.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
got the dates right there.
okay.
Oh, there you go.
Look how prepared you are.
Look at that. Okay, it's 24th through 26th, yep, all right, good.
So,
Some good disaster
well,
stuff
and I
on
know
there.
that, yeah, we're gonna have to set that,
And
but
we'll-
I was hoping maybe we could do board meeting the week after that. I know it would be like the very beginning of October, but, if those board members who go could do a short presentation or
Yeah.
discuss the things that you've learned so that we can, the
Yeah,
rest
bring
of us
some of
can,
it back.
yeah, bring some of it back to us.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. With that, let's move on to discussion of the new phone system. Looks like Cliff's got that one.
Well, it's gonna be short and sweet.
Yeah, I have one quick question. Did we miss the continued suspension of employer?
We tabled it.
We tabled it.
I missed that. Thank
Yep.
you.
Stacy's not going to let us forget.
Oh, that's, okay.
No, the new phone system, we requested some more information through both community and eventually through Blackfoot. We haven't quite got all the information we need to put together any kind of proposal or recommendation or anything like that. The waters have kinda got muddy, because they said, well, if you're gonna do this, then you really need this new equipment. So they sent us an additional quote for another $21,000 for equipment.
Okay,
So we believe that.
gotcha. Okay,
You're
All
gonna
right.
kill Leona.
so we are going to table that discussion till next month. Okay,
Well, does it look feasible?
I don't know. Well, we have to do something. We have to do something, because if our phone system goes out, we're dead and gone. Transferring the hospital numbers to all our individual cell phones and stuff like that, I just don't know what happened.
But
Because some of those,
this is why we're saying, you know, what is the true cost, because on the maintenance cost, looks pretty good. But what other equipment do we have to replace, or is this truly the cost
and
of
it's,
doing it?
the reason I say it's muddies the water is because the equipment that needs to be replaced is probably gonna have to be replaced anyway.
Well-
Because we stretch all that.
As part of that proposal, can we see all of that? All the
Yeah, that's what
numbers?
we're trying to do, is get
Okay.
those numbers to you. I hate to jump in, because I think it's a long minute, but, I don't know if you remember, but what, 3 months ago, was it 3 months ago now, or I lose track of time, but we lost our complete administrative file server and email system
Right,
for a month. And it's really it's kind of a separate issue, but yet it isn't. I mean,
That's part of it.
yeah, it is part of it. That's kind of what Cliff is saying here too. I mean, that piece of equipment really does need to be replaced. I mean, in addition, it somewhat relates to the phone proposal as well, but, the CMCIT people said, well, do you want us to come back and approach you again with this $21,000 worth of equipment? And I said right away, I said, no, I said, I don't want to hassle with the board twice, and go through because if you do approve the proposal, the way we would have to finance it or do it is through a lease, a lease purchase option, for 5 years. So we just asked him to throw that in and as a possibility to take care of that issue at the same time and not have to come to you twice and, go through,
Well, then on top of that, there's probably wiring issues.
Yeah.
The wiring that we have now probably won't sustain all that needs to be
yeah.
done.
Well, it probably just doesn't make sense to talk about it yet until we get the whole picture.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So let's,
How old is our current system?
20.
At least.
Yeah, almost 20 years old, I suppose. Mid-90s somewhere it was purchased.
yeah. And
You
some of
wanna
those,
see lost revenue, take your phones away from the clinic and hospital, but
yep,
even a
Well, or
day.
patient safety issues, and
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah,
physician
no,
in the
it's-
ER.
it's important.
PA in the ER trying
It's
to get a hold of a doc or somebody in,
Yep.
St. Pat's or something.
It's not good to walk outside and make a phone call.
yeah, yeah.
It's real bad.
Now, many years
When
ago,
you're
I
right in
went
the
through the
middle of it,
experience of having a phone system die in a law firm, and it wasn't good there either. Yeah.
Just patient safety issue.
Yep, okay, anything else that needs to be discussed under new business? For the good of the order,
I have something.
okay?
I have a video of a K-PAC story. This was for the I Saved a Life ceremony.
Yep.
And
Attack in a remote area, it often ends with permanent damage or death. But if everything is done right by a string of people, there can be a happy ending. And that's what happened in Mineral County in June. And those involved were honored tonight in Superior with what is called a I Saved a Life Award. Karen Schwarzkopf had a heart attack near the old Diamond Match Mill. Her husband and daughter began CPR, then called 911. EMTs arrived and used a defibrillator. Karen was stabilized at Mineral Community Hospital and then flown to Missoula. Schwarzkopfs are eternally grateful.
I tell you one thing, and I'm sincere about this, is how much I appreciate everyone, folks that responded. I just can't control my emotions when it comes to this.
I'm looking at people that I've never met before, that he's talked about, that my daughter talked about. And I just look at him, I can't say it enough, I can't think he doesn't do it. About, that my daughter talked about. And I just look at him, I can't say it enough, I can't think he doesn't do it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I guess Monty played a central role in putting that together, and the award, so that's great. All right,
I just wanted to point out that the last 3 board meetings we've had 100% attendance of the directors.
oh, cool, good.
We get a gold star?
Only if you get somebody to donate it. Okay.
We
all
still
right.
need one more member though, so,
Get up to full speed.
yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we're
don't
gonna
forget.
do the September meeting into October. The next,
What day is that?
date is that? Do you have it?
Second, I think.
October second?
Okay. And then at this point, I'd like a motion to adjourn the meeting into an executive session.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ray and I have an issue to talk about in executive session too, potential.